What's up, y'all? My name is Milton Craig Spence III. You are here with the He and Him podcast, and today's episode is Can a Man Lead with No One to Follow? Can a man lead with no one to follow? I think it should be an interesting topic. Let's jump right into it. All right. So, again, the topic today is Can a Man lead with no one to follow? So, I guess the common answer to this would be no, right? That would be the common answer. But let's pay attention to what we're asking, okay? When it comes down to leadership, a man himself cannot be anybody without somebody to follow, right? So I had this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and what we discussed was the factor of leadership, what a man is when it comes down to his leadership. Can he lead without someone to follow, and how it is that he's able to do that without people to follow him. And I always say that a man is a man is a man, right? When it comes down to people following him, it doesn't necessarily mean that he has to have a consensus or a following. It just means that he has to have someone that he follows in order to be able to lead. Now, as confusing as that may sound, let me slow it down for you. A leader is not a leader based upon the factor of the title that has been given to them. A leader is a leader based upon the fact of who they follow. Remember, there's nobody else on this earth who was born a leader that didn't have something or someone that they followed in order to get to that position or get to that point. So because they didn't get there and get to that point by themselves, that leadership has a following to it first and foremost. You can't be a leader without having something or someone to follow. So I always ask, and I always wonder to myself, how is it or what is it that we're supposed to follow? What is it or how is it that we're supposed to go into these things without knowing exactly what to follow? And I think, well, I know deep down inside what fellowship is and what leadership is something that we can never befall to the likelihood of something or someone else that has nothing to do with what we're doing in this very moment, right? Like, so you can't go out here into this life and be like, I'm gonna lead people. I'm gonna lead people. But you have no idea what you're doing. I have no idea where you're going, and you have no idea what to build upon, and you have no ideas. So a lot of times when it comes down to your leadership, it has to be based upon what you've been following and how you've been able to derive to a point of leadership from what you followed. I know. There is a natural leadership within us. There's a natural athleticism within athletes, but it doesn't come without practice, and it doesn't come without gaining of knowledge, and it doesn't come without pressure or press. It doesn't come without somebody not listening. It doesn't come without somebody not being able to do. It doesn't come without those things. So can a man lead without someone to follow? Yes, because a man is supposed to be following the leader in order to be able to have people follow. So it's like this. If you go out as a gentleman and you look for people to make follow you, or you look for people to have on your coattail, you'll constantly be in a position where you have no idea what's going on because you're looking for people to grab. You're looking for people to make follow you. And I know the big thing is, when it comes down to following and leadership, it has a lot to do with marriage. But let's go a little bit deeper than marriage. Now, I know marriage is probably the deepest thing when it comes down to it, but let's go deeper. When it comes down to a man jumping forward and having or wanting someone to follow him, he has to be in a position constantly of servitude. He has to constantly be in a position of being able to give up of self in order to be able to go forward and understanding exactly what it is that he's doing. He has to constantly be in a position of being behind. He has to constantly be in a position of not understanding. He has to constantly be in a position of learning. He has to constantly be in a position of peace seeking. He has to constantly be in a position of humility. Following or leadership kind of go hand in hand in the sense that there's no leader out here, and I've said it once and I say it again, there's no leader out here with somebody or something that they follow. There's no leader out here like that. I haven't met one, and you won't meet one. If there's a person out here who says they're a leader and they don't follow anything, that person is full of pride, and you need to run the other way. Now, what happens when other men get around other men and I'm the leader, right? Egos start tripping. At that point, we have to derive from or descent from men who believe themselves to be better leaders than what they are projected to be. We have to take those men out of the reign. We have to take those men out of the plane altogether. There is no male that I have ever met in my life that is a better leader than the highest leader that came before them. right? Unless they follow that highest leader that came before them. There's no man that's a better leader that doesn't learn from other leaders. There's no man that's a better leader that doesn't take from other leaders and make it into his own. There's no man that's a better leader than a person who makes it where they're constantly in a position of learning and then only expelling a message that they've learned. There's no better leadership than a man that has a following within him that he wants to go after. Now, what I'm talking about could go positive and negative. It could be people following the devil, and it also could be people following God. It could be both. It definitely can be both. Now, my question to you would be, what and who do you follow? Who and what do you follow? Where do you go in your life where you say, you know what, I'm not going to be this person or be this man anymore that doesn't understand where he's going or doesn't understand where he's coming from. I'm not going to be this man that doesn't understand his going outs and his coming ins. My question still is, who and what do you follow? Why is it that you, my brother, my sister, have a hard time being in a position where you have people who want to follow? These are all positive things I'm speaking of now. I'm not speaking in the sense of people who just want to have people follow them because of the fact they talk a good game. But I want people around me, and I want people who want fellowship based upon the fact of being good, not feeling good or seeming good, but actually being good. That is a tough position to be in for a lot of gentlemen, because a lot of gentlemen are taught to be a leader, right? Without understanding what that following looks like. I think a lot of times too, a lot of guys can only learn how to be a better leader if they followed some people into a demise, or follow people into a negative situation, or follow somebody into a dark room, or follow people around that didn't have their best interests at heart. I think that alone builds better leaders, but I don't necessarily understand why it takes that. Although I believe that it is the best, I just don't understand why it takes that. And the reason I say that is because of this. You have some men or some gentlemen out here who have this ingrained ability to make the best decisions there is. You have some men out here who have the ability to not make the best decisions there is. And where does that come from, or where does that start? I believe that really goes or starts within the home. I definitely believe it really starts within the mind. I believe it really starts into what you read. Now, a lot of people would have you believe that when it comes down to what they read or what they study or how they go about their life, their following or what they follow has nothing to do with how they want to be or what they want to do or where they want to go. But I would disagree. I would say that you're more prone to be a follower if you dive 100% into what it is that you believe. You're more prone to follow. Like, there's some people who ignorantly follow things, and I don't believe that's following. I just believe that's being blind. Like, that's just blind leading the blind type of thing. But a person who follows something is a person who dives deep into it to the point where they're trying to understand it in the ins and outs of it, and understands that they're following it in order for them to be a better leader in whatever it is that they're doing or whatever it is that they're living. Now, in my opinion, every man needs to be a leader amongst leaders, in order to be able to take other people who are struggling, not necessarily just men, but people who are struggling in areas in their life, and be able to lead them out of it. Because if you think about it, isn't everybody's ultimate goal to be better or to do better or to have better in life? I would think so. So why is it that we can't, as men, right, understand that in order to be our best self, sometimes we just have to follow, right? And sometimes we have to lead, and you can only lead based upon the level of which you are at. You can't lead based upon a level you're not at. So how do you grow? I'm repeating myself just in other ways. I'm trying to drive a point home. It's that you can't grow without something to help you. You can't grow without water. A plant can't grow. We need other things. Like, the grass needs bugs. The bugs need grass. Like, we need these things. The soil needs light. The soil needs water. The water needs soil. It's these things that we need, that we have a dire need for, that will help us not only be our best self, but constantly give ourselves over to the idea of being the greatest that we can be. Now, when it comes to you and your life, I don't necessarily know how you go about your servitude, and I definitely don't know how you go about your leadership. But if there's one thing I had to tell you, it would be learn how to follow a position that you want to be in. Learn how to go about that, not mimicking, but following, understanding that you still must walk the steps yourself. Mimicking can make you feel as if you're walking the steps, when a lot of times all you're doing is going in a hamster wheel to learn, which is why a lot of us learn lessons more than once, because we're in a hamster wheel. We're not necessarily taking steps. We're just going in a circle and feeling as if we're taking steps. Now, the only time that you can truly lead somebody is when you walk through that test and walk through that trial and walk through that thing and go through it yourself. Experience is the greatest teacher, whether that be learning from others or learning from your own. But the goal is to be able to walk through it and get out on the other side so you can lead other people through. You got what I'm saying? There would be no Moses in the Red Sea if Moses decided to just never walk through, or never take the step, or never do the thing, never be obedient, never draw the staff, never put it down. We would only be talking about the people who passed versus the people who stepped through, who went through. So, gentlemen, I would say this, and this is a very light episode, but I would say this. If you really, really want to know how to lead, if you really want to be a better leader for yourself or your family, I would say find God, find yourself in God, and follow God so that you can be your best self in God. So you no longer give yourself over to anything else in your life that's not leading you to a path of being a better leader. Thank you so much for tuning into the episode. Much love.